you have a copy? Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for coming. We are here today to say goodbye to Phyllis Boxer, to honor her, to pay her respect, and to fulfill the mitzvah, the righteous act in Jewish tradition of accompanying her to her final resting place. We are also here to join our hearts together with those of her family, to console and comfort a family who are now mourning the loss of their beloved mother, Baba, great Baba, sister, and friend. Phyllis passed away Tuesday, the 3rd of September, also the 3rd day in the Hebrew month of Elul. She was 93 years old. She will be lovingly missed by her daughter Irene and son-in-law David, her grandchildren Jody, Ilana and John and Jesse, her great-granddaughter Kaya, and her sister Connie Little of BC. Phyllis was predeceased by her parents, David and Sylvia, her older brother Alan, her daughter Jackie, and her devoted, loving husband of 58 years, Albert Boxer, who passed away in 2005. We begin our ceremony this afternoon with the chanting of a psalm and the recitation of readings of Jewish wisdom and comfort, linking Phyllis's life with 4,000 years of Jewish tradition and with the eternity of God. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar, bino deshe yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot, yenahaleni nafshi yeshovei, yancheni v'maglei tzedek lemon shemo. Gam ki elech begetz ha'mavet lo irara, ki ata imadi. Shivtecha u'mishantecha hema yenachamuni. Taroch lefanai shulchan neged sorerai. Dishanta Vashem en Roshi, Kosi Rivaya, Achtov Achesed Yirdefuni Ko Yemei Chayai, Veshavti Beveit Adonai Leorech Yamim. Psalm of David. Adonai, God is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside the still waters, and restores my soul. Guides me on the right path, for that is God's nature. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a banquet for me in the presence of my foes. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and loving kindness will follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever. One of the most famous quotes in Jewish wisdom, often quoted at funeral services, comes from the book of Ecclesiastes, Kohelet, as it's known in Hebrew. There is a time for everything under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die. Today, with this service, we are all forced to face our own mortality and accept the truth: everyone is destined to die. Everyone will have his or her time. For Phyllis Boxer, at 93 years, it was her time. But at the same time, there's another line in Ecclesiastes. The eye never has its fill of seeing. Young or old, those who depart this life never see enough of the world. They never complete their task. they never get to cherish their loved ones enough. The ones they leave behind will always wish they could have had them close for yet another challenge in their lives, yet another joyful celebration, yet another precious moment together. Whenever parting comes, it comes too soon. So today we celebrate Phyllis's life, but we also recognize the ones she leaves behind are in pain and in need of comforting and, in time, healing. Phyllis's Hebrew name was Fega. Fega bat David Avraham v'Sarah, the daughter of David and Sylvia. It's a Yiddish name, Fega, and it means bird, which really couldn't be a more fitting name for the woman we are honoring today. Birds are beautiful, elegant creatures, perfect for someone who throughout her life embodied grace, style, and beauty, who was fancy, stunning, in fact, with her trademark fluffy blonde hair, always well-dressed, which of course she came by honestly with her father running a successful clothing store. And her home was always a place of beauty too, well decorated and maintained, organized, everything in its right place. Fega is also such a fitting name for a lady who loved the arts, who was musical and a dancer, and was often called a free spirit. But just as a bird is also delicate, even fragile, we often forget how strong birds can be, how resilient, and of course how devoted to family, to their children they are. Phyllis not only embodied beauty, she also embodied strength and courage. She was a survivor, persevering time and time again through pain and tragedy. She is a testament to never giving up. And for those of us who are here to remember her, she is an inspiration. With all of these thoughts in mind, by way of introduction, it is now my honor to call forward Phyllis's daughter, Irene, to deliver the hesped, the eulogy, in her mother's honor, and also Phyllis's granddaughter, Alana, and her husband, John, who will also share reflections of what their Baba means to them.
Our children, Alana and Jesse, were lucky enough to grow up in a family full of active dynamics, with 4 very different and loving grandparents and 2 amazing great-grandmothers. My mother, Phyllis, was one of these special babas. Mom was the last remaining grandparent in this generational scaffold until she died on Tuesday morning. Alana and Jesse were very blessed to have these loving grandparents in their lives for so long. It was truly a gift from Hashem. Phyllis adored our sweet granddaughter Kaya and showed her special love. Mom never forgot a birthday or an anniversary. She was always generous with loving words and gifts.
Baba Phyllis was very into astrology. She would always talk to people about their astrological signs and identifying the strengths that each had. This is one of the first things she asked me about when I first met her, coming from Toronto with Alana. Phyllis also, in her own way, put her personal touch on so many things that she did. We saw this especially during birthdays and other celebrations. Every gift was accompanied by a very eloquent card and a handwritten message from the heart.
More than anything else in the last few years, Baba Phyllis took great pride in being a great-grandmother to Kaya. From the moment the two met, they had an incredible bond, and Kaya loved visiting Baba Phyllis at her home. Phyllis loved playing with Kaya, and even in her advanced age, she made an extra effort to actually get on the floor and play with her. And she took interest in the shows even Kaya watched, like Peppa Pig. And I'm so grateful to have had her for so many great years, and we always, especially in the last couple years, we've had great conversations. Baba Phyllis, especially in more recent years, when she spent so much time in hospitals. As I spent time with her together there with her, and I learned a lot more about how hard it was losing a daughter and raising her own grandson.
She had a life filled with privilege and extreme pain, which shaped the person she was. Myself, Elena, and Kaya will always remember her. Miss her deeply.
The narrative of my mother's life was complicated, and it shaped her personality from the time she was a child. She was born in Winnipeg in 1926 into a Russian Jewish immigrant family. Her parents were David and Sylvia Wolf. She was a middle child with one much older brother, Alan, and one much younger sister, Cornelia. And if you're listening, Aunt Connie, I love you. In the 1930s, Phyllis grew up in Crescentwood, where they were one of a handful of Jewish families living in the formerly restricted neighborhood. Her Jewish roots were keenly felt and intensified by the anti-Semitism of the times. She was an introvert in a large extended Eastern European family clan of extroverts. Her mother, my Baba Sylvia, was a Granovsky, and they're a huge family in Winnipeg, and were and still are. She was a free spirit with an internal fragility, yet a strong core like a diamond. She went to Robert H. Smith School, Kelvin High School, and United College for grade 12. She met and married my dad, Albert Boxer, around age 20. My dad was 9 years older than her. Interesting, because 9 years was the difference between herself and each of her siblings. My dad was in the Air Force during World War II in the Italian campaign in North Africa. He was a larger-than-life extrovert, just like my Zeta Dave, who was Phyllis's father. He adored my mother and was very devoted to her happiness. I remember as a child sneaking out of bed one night after a house party. My mom and dad were all dressed up like movie stars, the way people did in the 1950s. All the guests had gone home. They put on a record and started dancing in the living room. At that moment, and they didn't see me, I don't think. At that moment, I felt all of their love and absolute security because they were so much in love. My older sister, Jackie, was born in 1948 and had special needs. Jackie died in 1972. This broke my mother's heart, a wound I do not think she ever recovered from. I was born in 1952, and my job was to take care of and protect my older sister. Our family was a team. Phyllis loved beauty. She surrounded herself with beautiful things. Her parents were in the retail clothing industry, and my beautiful, unique mother had the most gorgeous clothes in the world. As a child, I used to peek into her closet with wonder and awe. She instilled in me the same love for beauty and glamour. My mom also had a strong love for Judaism, for our history, for learning, for education, and social justice issues. She instilled that in me too. Both my parents were role models for Tikkun Olam. Phyllis loved the arts. She was an accomplished piano and guitar player. She adored dancing and participated in several Winnipeg dance groups, including the Bravado Dance Company. She danced regularly until she was 90 years old. She loved ballet, tap, and especially flamenco dancing. We all remember going to her dance performances, and especially watching my dad sit in the front row, felling over his gorgeous wife. My mom struggled with some dark times in her life. In the 1950s, when mental health issues were hidden and never spoken about. But I admired her inner strength, her spirit, her resilience, her ability to put one foot in front of the other day by day and keep going. She taught me to be resilient as well, and for that, Mom, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. It shaped me into the strong adult I became and carved out a life path for me as a therapist and a helper. Phyllis loved reading and read incessantly. She didn't have a TV till we bought her one when she moved into the Sharon home, Simpkin Center. She didn't even like TV, and I don't think she watched it after we bought it. Okay. Phyllis loved my husband David unconditionally, as do I. And he adored her. David always said that my parents, Phyllis and Albert, treated us like adults and respected us. In her late 80s, Phyllis developed some health issues which slowed her down and gradually took her independence and eventually her life. She was fiercely independent even until the day of her death. Mom, we wish you a good journey, full of light and unconditional love. Sincere thanks to the hospital staff of Grace Hospital, St. Boniface, we were in all the hospitals, HSC, the Simpkin Center, Myra at Harmony Court, who was one of the women who took care of my mother there, and she just has a heart of gold. Dr. Bijay Johnson, Dr. Michael Kasoy, Dr. Caldis, and Dr. Ajay. We are very, if I didn't mention the Simpkin Center, I meant to, and the staff at the Simpkin Center. We are very grateful to the pallbearers, Jesse, John Waldman, Brett Gladstone, Avi Waldman, Daniel Moskovich, and Zach Wiseman. We are fortunate to have such loving and loyal friends and family who have supported us in so many ways through so many of our loss of our family members. We thank all of you for your support during these difficult times.
Thank you, John, Alana, and Irene, for this beautiful eulogy, reflecting on the impact Phyllis has had in your lives, something that is evident and clearly something you cherish. We thank you again for sharing these words of tribute with us, all of us today. I had the opportunity to sit with the family a couple of evenings ago, and we were sharing stories. On just a bit of a lighter note, I'm told Phyllis was also known, speaking of stories, for maybe exaggerating or embellishing some of her own talents and abilities. Like her audacious claim she could single-handedly rebuild or repair the transmission of her car, which of course she couldn't. Or some of her claims about cooking and baking, when it was discovered that the things she was talking about she'd actually bought at the store. These weren't really her forte. But when it comes to the things that she was good at, when it comes to her strengths and her ability to be strong, she was actually quite humble. You mentioned no TV. Phyllis had this love of reading. In the Simpkin Center Library, we believe, read every single book in that library. She had a particular love for stories about history. And she was often drawn within stories about history to stories about survival and stories about perseverance. In the end, it's fitting because her own story is actually one she would have undoubtedly been drawn to. It's a story we are all here to admire, as we should. It is a story that is one very much worthy of honoring, remembering, and celebrating. With all of this in mind, it's now time for the memorial prayer, the El Malei Rachamim in Phyllis's honor. I invite you all to rise. El Malei Rachamim Shochein Bamromim Hamsei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShekhinah B'ma'alot Kedoshim Uteorim His Zohar Arakia Mazhirim and Nishmat Fega Ba David Avram V'Sara Shelcha Leolama Began Eden Te Menuchata Hanabal Harachamim Hasirei Abeseter Kenafecha Leolamim Vitzeror Achaim Enishmata Adonai Hu Nachalata V'tanuach B'shalom Amishkava V'nomar Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of Phyllis Boxer, Fega, but David Abraham Besara, the daughter of David and Sylvia, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that she find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace. Let us say, Amen. Please be seated. Our service continues now with interment. We'll be traveling in caravan fashion to the cemetery, the Rosh Pina Memorial Park, 2795 Main Street. You are all invited to join us as we complete the task we mentioned at the beginning of accompanying Phyllis to her final resting place. We'll be driving with our four-way flashers on, though we will be stopping for red lights along the way. After our visit to the cemetery, we will return here to Congregation Shered Zedek for a meal of consolation as our thoughts turn from honoring Phyllis to comforting her loved ones. If you choose to wait here at the synagogue for us to return, it's usually about 90 minutes from when we leave to when we make it back. Keeping with the thoughts of consolation and comforting, there will not be a formal Shiva, but Phyllis's family will be attending evening Minyan services here, 6 p.m., if you'd like to join them to honor her memory. In a moment, we'll ask the pallbearers and family to leave the chapel first. We ask the rest of you wait until they leave before you take your leave. And that when you do, you help us follow a custom we have here at Shered Zedek of forming 2 rows on the steps leading out of the building and onto the driveway. 2 rows of familiar faces, friends, family. 2 rows through which the pallbearers will pass with the casket. It's just another sign of respect and of caring for a loved one until the very end. In closing, we offer these words in both Hebrew and English to the family. Hamakom yinachem etchem b'toch sha'ar avlei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. May you be comforted among all those in our community who have ever been in mourning, who have ever experienced loss. And to everyone here, again, on behalf of Phyllis's family, we thank you so much for coming and paying your respect. Thank you. Pallbearers, family, you may leave.